The American Revolution was a turning point in history that shaped the modern world as we know it. It was a time of great upheaval, where colonists fought for their independence from British rule. The revolution was not just a military conflict, but a social, economic, and political revolution that transformed the American colonies into a new nation. The seeds of the revolution were sown in the early 18th century, when the British government began to impose a series of taxes and regulations on the colonies. The colonists, who had long enjoyed a degree of self-government, saw these measures as an infringement on their rights and freedoms. They began to organize and protest against British rule, culminating in the Boston Tea Party in 1773. The British responded with force, sending troops to quell the rebellion. The colonists, led by figures such as George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, formed their own army and fought back. The war lasted for 8 years, from 1775 to 1783, and was marked by several key battles, including the Battle of Bunker Hill, the Battle of Saratoga, and the Battle of Yorktown. Despite the odds against them, the colonists emerged victorious, thanks in part to the support of France and other European powers. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783, recognized the independence of the United States and established its borders. The American Revolution was not just a military victory, but a triumph of ideas. It inspired other revolutions around the world, including the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution. It also laid the foundation for the modern concept of democracy, with its emphasis on individual rights and representative government. In the following segments, we will explore the social, economic, and political changes that the American Revolution brought about, and how it continues to shape our world today. The American Revolution brought about significant social changes in the colonies. Prior to the Revolution, colonial society was largely divided into 3 classes: the wealthy landowners, the middle class, and the poor. However, the Revolution challenged this social hierarchy and paved the way for greater social mobility. One of the most significant social changes brought about by the Revolution was the abolition of slavery in the northern states. While slavery continued in the southern states, the Revolution planted the seeds for its eventual abolition in the United States. The Revolution also inspired the abolitionist movement, which fought for the end of slavery in the United States and around the world. The Revolution also brought about greater opportunities for women. While women were still largely excluded from political and economic life, the Revolution challenged traditional gender roles and paved the way for greater gender equality. Women played a significant role in the Revolution, serving as nurses, spies, and even soldiers. The Revolution also inspired the women's rights movement, which fought for greater political and social rights for women. Finally, the Revolution brought about a greater sense of national identity among the colonists. Prior to the Revolution, the colonists identified primarily with their individual colonies, such as Virginia or Massachusetts. However, the Revolution brought about a sense of shared identity as Americans, united in the struggle for independence. This sense of national identity laid the foundation for the modern United States and continues to shape American culture and politics today. In the next segment, we will explore the economic changes brought about by the American Revolution. The American Revolution brought about significant economic changes in the colonies. Prior to the Revolution, the colonies were largely dependent on trade with Britain and other European powers. However, the Revolution disrupted this trade and forced the colonies to develop their own economy. One of the most significant economic changes brought about by the Revolution was the growth of industry. With the disruption of trade, the colonies were forced to develop their own manufacturing industries to produce goods such as textiles and iron. This led to the growth of cities and the rise of a new class of industrialists. The Revolution also brought about a shift in economic power from the wealthy landowners to the middle class. With the disruption of trade, the landowners were no longer able to rely on their traditional sources of wealth. Instead, the middle class, which included merchants and industrialists, emerged as the new economic elite. The Revolution also brought about a greater emphasis on individualism and entrepreneurship. With the disruption of trade, individuals were forced to rely on their own skills and resources to survive. This led to a greater emphasis on individual initiative and the development of a culture of entrepreneurship. Finally, the Revolution brought about a greater sense of economic independence among the colonists. Prior to the Revolution, the colonies were largely dependent on trade with Britain and other European powers. However, the Revolution forced the colonies to develop their own economy and become more self-sufficient. In the next segment, we will explore the political changes brought about by the American Revolution. The American Revolution brought about significant political changes in the colonies. Prior to the Revolution, the colonies were largely governed by British officials and subject to British laws. However, the Revolution challenged this system of government and paved the way for a new system of government based on democratic principles. One of the most significant political changes brought about by the Revolution was the establishment of a new system of government based on the principles of democracy. The Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson, proclaimed that all men are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This idea of individual rights and freedoms laid the foundation for the modern concept of democracy. The revolution also led to the establishment of a new system of government based on the principle of representative government. The Articles of Confederation, adopted in 1781, established a weak central government and gave most of the power to the individual states. However, this system proved ineffective, and in 1787, a new constitution was drafted that established a stronger central government and a system of checks and balances to prevent the abuse of power. The revolution also brought about a greater emphasis on civic participation and political engagement. Prior to the revolution, most colonists had little say in their governments and were largely excluded from political life. However, the revolution challenged this system and paved the way for greater political participation and engagement. Finally, the revolution inspired other movements for political change around the world. The French Revolution, which began in 1789, was inspired in part by the American Revolution and sought to establish a new system of government based on democratic principles. In a final segment, we will explore the legacy of the American Revolution and its continued impact in the modern world. The American Revolution was a turning point in history that continues to shape the modern world. Its legacy can be seen in the social, economic, and political changes that it brought about, as well as in its continued impact on American culture and politics. One of the most significant legacies of the American Revolution is its impact on the concept of democracy. The revolution challenged the traditional system of government based on monarchy and paved the way for a new system of government based on democratic principles. Today, the United States is one of the world's oldest and most stable democracies, and the principles of democracy that were established during the revolution continue to shape American politics and culture. The revolution also had a significant impact on the global economy. The growth of industry and the rise of a new class of industrialists laid the foundation for the modern capitalist economy. Today, the United States is one of the world's largest economies, and its economic system continues to shape global trade and commerce. Finally, the revolution had a significant impact on American culture and identity. The sense of national identity that emerged during the revolution continues to shape American culture and politics today. The revolution also inspired a sense of patriotism and national pride that is still evident in American society. In conclusion, the American Revolution was a turning point in history that brought about significant social, economic, and political changes. Its legacy can be seen in the modern concept of democracy, the global economy, and American culture and identity. The revolution continues to inspire people around the world to fight for their rights and freedoms, and its impact will be felt for generations to come.